The railway station looked like a forgotten place that night. Dim yellow lights flickered above the platform, struggling against the thick winter fog that rolled in waves across the tracks. The iron rails glistened with frost, stretching into darkness like endless scars on the earth. A distant train horn echoed somewhere far away, hollow and lonely, as if the night itself was breathing. The clock above the main platform struck 11:47 p.m. Almost everyone had gone home. Only the cold remained. The wind slipped through every crack, biting hard at skin and bone. It rattled old posters on the walls and made empty plastic bottles dance across the floor. Benches sat abandoned, their metal surfaces cruelly frozen, as if daring anyone to sit on them. That was when Daniel Hart stepped onto the platform. His polished shoes clicked against the concrete, the sound unusually loud in the silence. He adjusted his scarf, irritation crossing his face. He hated delays, hated discomfort, hated anything he couldn't control. Daniel Hart didn't wait for trains. Trains waited for him. He was a man who owned time, or so he believed. Boardrooms paused when he entered. Deals closed with a nod of his head. His name appeared on buildings, foundations, and financial headlines. Yet here he was, alone, cold, waiting. His private car had broken down miles away. The driver insisted the railway station was the nearest safe place to wait. Daniel had scoffed at the idea, until the biting wind forced him inside. He pulled his coat tighter around himself. Italian wool, tailored perfectly, expensive, protective. Still, the cold found him. He walked slowly along the platform, hands in pockets, eyes fixed ahead. His mind wandered, numbers, meetings, unfinished emails, acquisitions waiting to be signed. Life, to him, had always been a series of transactions. Then something broke the pattern. A shape on a bench. At first, he thought it was a pile of discarded clothes. People left strange things behind at stations. But as he drew closer, he noticed movement, subtle, trembling movement. A woman. She sat hunched over, arms wrapped tightly around herself, her shoulders shaking as if she were trying to fold into something smaller. Her breath came out in short, shaky clouds, disappearing instantly into the freezing air. Daniel slowed his pace. Something about her presence felt wrong. Not dangerous, just out of place, like a living soul forgotten by the world. He told himself to keep walking. This wasn't his problem, but his feet refused to obey. He noticed the thinness of her coat, clearly not meant for winter nights. The fabric was worn at the elbows. Her shoes were soaked, probably from melted snow. A small medical bag sat beside her feet, its zipper half broken, a faded hospital logo barely visible. A nurse. Daniel felt a strange tightening in his chest. She shifted slightly, wincing as she moved, as if every motion hurt. Her fingers were red, almost purple, from the cold. She rubbed them together desperately, trying to create warmth that simply wasn't there. Still, she didn't cry. She didn't call for help. She endured. Daniel stood a few feet away now. Close enough to hear the faint sound of her teeth chattering. Close enough to notice the exhaustion etched deep into her face, an exhaustion no amount of sleep could cure. He cleared his throat. The sound made her flinch. Her head snapped up, eyes wide with alarm, fear flashing for just a second before she forced herself to calm down. Her gaze met his, and time stopped. Her eyes weren't beautiful in the way magazines defined beauty. They were tired, shadowed, but there was something painfully honest in them. No pretense, no performance, just survival. Daniel hesitated, unaccustomed to uncertainty. Are you all right? The question sounded strange, even to him. How many times had people asked him that? Probably never. She studied him carefully, as if measuring whether honesty was safe. Yes, she said finally. It was a lie. The cold betrayed her, shaking her body harder than before. Daniel frowned slightly. You're freezing. She gave a weak smile. It's just a long night. A train roared past on the opposite track, its lights blinding for a moment, its noise swallowing the silence. When it passed, everything felt even quieter than before. Daniel glanced around. No staff, no security, no one else in sight. Why are you still here? He asked. She looked down at her hands. My shift ended late. The buses stopped running. I thought I'd wait until morning. Morning. In this cold. He couldn't understand how she was still conscious. You work at the hospital? He asked, nodding toward her bag. She followed his gaze. Yes. Emergency ward. Of course she did. The irony hit him like a slap. A woman who spent her nights saving lives, now sitting alone, shivering, unseen. Daniel felt something unfamiliar rising inside him. Guilt. He reached instinctively into his coat pocket and pulled out his phone. No signal. The station was in a dead zone. Do you have someone who can pick you up? He asked. She shook her head. I didn't want to bother anyone. Everyone's tired. Always putting others first, Daniel thought. Without another word, he unbuttoned his coat. The cold stabbed instantly at his chest. She noticed and shook her head quickly. No, please. Too late. He draped the heavy coat around her shoulders. The fabric swallowed her frame, hanging loosely, warmth instantly wrapping around her trembling body. She froze, not from cold this time, but shock. I can't take this, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. You can, Daniel replied quietly. And you will. She looked at him, torn between pride and relief. Slowly, reluctantly, she pulled the coat closer. Her trembling eased, just a little. Thank you, she said. The words carried weight. Not casual gratitude, not politeness. Real gratitude. Daniel felt it settle somewhere deep inside him, unsettling and strange. What's your name? He asked. She hesitated, then answered. Emily. Daniel. They sat in silence for a moment, the world paused around them. Wind still howled, the clock still ticked, but something invisible had shifted. Daniel glanced at his watch. Nearly midnight. He made a decision, one he would later realize was the most important of his life. I can take you home, he said. Emily stiffened. I'm not asking for anything, he added quickly. Just a ride. It's too cold to stay here. She searched his face, looking for signs of danger. All she found was sincerity, and something else. Loneliness. After a long pause, she nodded. Okay. As they stood, Emily swayed slightly. Daniel instinctively steadied her with a hand on her arm. She was light, too light. They walked toward the exit together, their footsteps echoing through the empty station. Behind them, the bench remained cold and empty. Ahead of them, a story was just beginning. And neither of them knew that the night, the cold, the silence, the chance meeting, had already changed everything. Chapter 2. The car moved slowly through the empty streets, tires whispering against the frost-covered asphalt. Streetlights passed one by one, casting brief halos of light across the windshield before dissolving back into darkness. Inside the car, the heater hummed softly, pushing warm air into the cold night. Emily sat quietly in the passenger seat, Daniel's coat wrapped tightly around her. The warmth felt almost unreal, like stepping into another world after hours of fighting the cold. Her hands, still red from the chill, hovered near the vents, absorbing the heat as if afraid it might disappear. Daniel glanced at her, careful not to stare. Is this okay? He asked, adjusting the temperature. She nodded. Yes. Thank you. Two simple words, yet they carried more meaning than she realized. For years, Daniel had been surrounded by people who said thank you out of habit, assistants, partners, strangers hoping for favors. Emily's gratitude was different. It wasn't polished. It wasn't strategic. It was human. They drove in silence for a while, the kind that isn't uncomfortable but thoughtful. Long shift? Daniel asked finally. Emily let out a soft breath. 16 hours. He glanced at her sharply. 16. She smiled faintly. We were short-staffed. Again. Daniel shook his head, trying to imagine it. 16 hours in meetings felt unbearable to him, yet this woman spent 16 hours on her feet, tending to pain, blood, fear, and death. What made you choose nursing? He asked. Emily thought for a moment. My mother was sick when I was young. The nurses, they were kind to us when no one else had time. I wanted to be that person for someone else. Daniel absorbed her words in silence. He realized how rarely he asked questions without expecting something in return. The car turned into a quieter neighborhood. Old apartment buildings lined the street, their windows dark except for the occasional dim light. Daniel slowed the car. "This is me," Emily said softly, pointing to a small building with peeling paint and a flickering entrance light. He parked and turned off the engine. For a moment, neither moved. "I don't know how to thank you," she said. "Tonight could have been bad." Daniel shrugged lightly. "I'm glad I was there." She hesitated, then removed the coat and held it out to him. "You'll need this." He shook his head. "Keep it, at least until you're inside." She smiled, really smiled this time. It was small, but it reached her eyes. "Good night, Daniel." "Good night, Emily." She stepped out of the car and paused at the entrance, turning back once more. Daniel raised a hand in farewell as she disappeared inside. As he drove away, the car felt strangely empty. Daniel didn't sleep that night. Back in his penthouse, surrounded by glass walls and city lights, he lay awake staring at the ceiling. The silence felt heavier than the cold ever had. Emily's face kept returning to his mind, her tired eyes, her quiet strength, the way she apologized for being cold, as if it were a fault. By morning, he had made up his mind. At the office, his team noticed something different. Daniel was distracted. Meetings ended early. Emails went unanswered. "Cancel my afternoon," he told his assistant. "And find out which hospital operates the emergency ward on Westbridge Street." His assistant blinked. "Sir, please." By noon, Daniel stood in the hospital lobby, surrounded by antiseptic smells and hurried footsteps. Nurses passed him, exhaustion written across their faces. For the first time, the hospital wasn't an abstract concept. It was a living, breathing place held together by overworked people. He donated before he asked questions. New equipment, staff relief programs, transportation support for night workers. Then he waited. When Emily stepped out of the emergency ward and saw him, she stopped mid-step. "Daniel," she asked, disbelief in her voice. "Is something wrong?" "No," he said quickly. "Nothing's wrong. I just wanted to see how you were." She laughed softly. "That's a first." They talked during her break, about small things. Coffee, music, the strange things patients say when they're scared. Conversation came easily, naturally. Daniel found himself listening more than speaking. Days turned into weeks. He began visiting the hospital often, not just for Emily, but for the people there. He listened to stories, learned names, shook hands without checking his watch. Emily noticed the change in him before he did. "You're different," she said one evening as they walked together after her shift. "How so?" "You're present." The word lingered. Present. He had spent years chasing the future, profits, expansion, legacy, without ever truly living in the moment. With Emily, he did. Their relationship grew slowly, without pressure. No headlines, no contracts, just dinners, late-night conversations, quiet understanding. Daniel learned that Emily lived simply, not because she lacked ambition, but because she valued peace. She taught him that warmth wasn't found in luxury, but in intention. In return, Daniel opened doors for her, funding scholarships, improving working conditions, ensuring nurses were never left stranded again. Together, they created a foundation focused on healthcare workers, people who gave everything and asked for little. The night at the railway station became their private memory. Whenever winter came, Daniel would smile and say, "Cold nights can change lives." Emily would squeeze his hand and reply, "Only if someone chooses to stop." And in that warmth, born from kindness, not wealth, they found a love strong enough to rewrite both their worlds.